Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome muli sa aming afternoon session sa aming Babayi Diaries. So muli makakasama natin ang ating co-host na si Miss Dawn Macahino. Hi Mare!
Hi Mars! Good afternoon at good afternoon din sa mga kumari natin na patuloy na nanonood at nakikinig sa ating mga chikahan dito sa Babayi Diaries.
Yes, Mare. I can't believe it's our 5th Babayi Diaries series.
Oh my God! May the 5th be with us! That's exciting, di ba? At pa-excite yung mga topics natin, yung mga guests natin. So, nakakatuwa at nakaka-inspire lagi every Friday afternoon. Ayun.
Yes, kasi ang dami na nating napag-usapan na women issues and different stuff. So ngayon, sobrang exciting because we've invited a very special guest na talagang sobrang grateful tayo kasi ako talaga, I have really high respect to this person kasi napakagaling na sa field na to and napakagaling din ng mga services na ino-offer nila sa Palawan. So today we're going to talk about contraceptives, and it's a very important discussion that we all need to have, and we should normalize this conversation. Right, Mare?
Correct, Mars. Ako, excited na ako kasi tinitingala ko talaga ng speaker natin. Idol or lodi natin siya, di ba? Bilang mga young feminists.
Yes. Kaya with no further ado, I'm really happy to introduce to you the founder executive director of Roots of Health, Ms. Amina Evangelista Swanepoel. Hello po.
Hello! Nahiya naman ako sa introduction ninyo. Medyo ninervyos pa ako. But hello.
Kinig na kami ngayon, nakasama ka namin.
Ako rin, kinig din. Feeling mas bumabata ako kasi, yung energy ng youth, di ba? Infectious. So, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes po, and we're really glad po because we really have high respect with what we're doing. And sobrang congratulations po pala because recently you're recognized sa international setting. And wow, grabe, sobrang
Yay!
Oh my God,
Thank you. Actually, kinikilig pa rin ako doon kasi idol ko talaga si Maring Charlize. So, medyo exciting.
Lahat ng mga kumara ni Ate Ami, ano?
Yes, international. So, Miss Ami, can you, before we start with all the talks about contraceptives, kumusta po kayo during this pandemic?
Okay naman. Syempre, like everyone else, medyo nahirapan din kaming mag-adjust nung una. Lalo na dahil, Palawan is not part of Luzon, usually of the main island, pero nasama kami sa Luzon-wide ECQ. So, we also had to close our offices and kasama rin kami dun sa lockdown na nangyari. So, syempre, medyo mahirap at first to adjust, but I think we've gathered our bearings. Marami kaming services before na talagang rely on in-person meetings. Nagtuturo kami sa mga school, nagte-train kami in person. So, of course, ngayon hindi pwedeng gawin yung mga yon. So, we're basically finding other ways to try to get our messaging out there.
Can you tell us about Roots of Health po, Ate Ami?
Sure. So, my organization is called Roots of Health or Ugat ng Kalusugan. 11 years old na po kami. We are based in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, and we provide sexual and reproductive health information, education, and services. So, naniniwala po kami that in order to tackle the problems of teen pregnancy or unplanned pregnancy, kahit hindi teenager, basta hindi planadong pagbubuntis, maternal deaths, and HIV incidents, para matackle po yung tatlong problemang yon, kailangan talaga natin ng comprehensive sexuality education as well as access to services. Hindi talaga enough yung information lang. Kailangan it goes hand in hand with access to services. So, nung una po, nagtuturo lang kami sa community at sa mga eskwelahan. Pero yung mga tinuturuan naming mga nanay sa community, sila mismo yung nag-demand ng services. So, after a year, yun yung time na hire kami ng una naming nurse. Tapos, that was followed by a midwife, and ngayon, at the biggest time, I think mga 7 or 8 yung nurses and midwives namin. And so we provide services to women in Puerto Princesa and all around Palawan. We also provide HIV screening all over the province. We teach in public high schools and in colleges all over Palawan. And then in the last 2 years, nagfo-focus na rin po kami sa system strengthening. So that really is working with our government, LGU counterparts, to create municipal implementation teams para sa RH law, para talagang ma-implement na fully yung RH law in Palawan.
Mars, grabe na rin doon.
Diba? Overwhelming. Itong bongga naman talaga ng roots of health, no? At saka yung mga extraordinary work na ginagawa ni Ate Ami. And sa ngayon talagang pinupush pa natin, no? Ilang taon na, ilang dekada na yung laban natin sa RH law at hanggang ngayon di pa siya fully implemented. So, tuloy pa din yung laban and we're so happy na andun nga sa frontliner doon si Ate Ami sa Palawan for the RH law implementation. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, and saka na-witness ko talaga si Miss Ami kung gaano kagaling, kaganda yung services. Talagang very friendly, youth-friendly. And kahit ako siguro kung ako yung nakatira doon, I would be like willingly go there para lang pumunta and to avail their services. Kasi bihira yung ganito na talagang nagko-connect sa community. And that's really awesome. Kaya talaga she's like the perfect fit for our discussion this afternoon. Today, talk natin about contraceptives. Grabe, nagsingit ko pa yan.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say lang na actually sa work namin, ako yung isa sa pinakamatatanda sa staff. So we really do try to get like the younger staff para makarelate talaga yung young people and to ensure na hindi stigmatized yung kanilang experience with our staff.
Yes, napaka-progressive talaga. So, ayan, punta na tayo sa discussion natin this afternoon. So, Miss Ami, what is safe sex? What does it mean?
So usually, pag sinasabi nating safe sex, what people are referring to is having sexual intercourse na mababawasan yung chances of having an unplanned pregnancy or getting a sexually transmitted infection through the use of a condom. So yung pinaka talagang like safest sex in order to reduce the chance of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infection, it's a condom. But a lot of people don't like using condoms and syempre, minsan ang kababaihan is hindi nila ma-negotiate ang condom use kung ayaw ng partner nila. So, I think safe sex has also started to include yung any contraceptive use because kahit na be protected against HIV or tulo, gonorrhea, chlamydia, at least if someone is on hormonal contraception, mababawasan yung chances of unplanned pregnancy. So that is part of safe sex. I also think that in some circles, and gusto ko talagang mapawiden yung circles na yun, safe sex also includes like, is this a healthy relationship? Was there consent? Pumapayag ba ang babae at ang lalaki or kung babae sila pareho or kung lalaki sila pareho? Is everyone involved? Did they all consent? So I think that's a very important issue and I think it's something that should be included in discussion of safe sex kasi kung hindi nakakuha ng consent, then that's rape. Kung nakikipagtalik kayo and somebody didn't consent. So of course, rape is not safe sex. So kahit may condom, kahit may contraception, kung hindi nag-consent, that wouldn't be safe sex.
Grabe. Yeah. Ang galing mo. Kasi ngayon kahit ako, nagkaroon ko ng idea. Kasi kahit ako kanina, nasa isip ko safe sex, yung first definition ni Miss Ami ng safe sex. And it's really, tama si Miss Ami We really need to widen this discussion to consent because it's really not a safe sex when people involved ay hindi talaga nagkaroon ng consent or naging consensus yung decision to actually have sex. Diba, Maridon?
Yeah, that's right, the remorse. Yeah. Even I think also I think safe sex also includes even couples or married couples natin kasi pag wala din talagang consent that constitutes rape talaga.
Yeah. Actually nung ini-explain namin sa mga community women kung ano yung marital rape, Like, parang hindi sila naniniwala. You know, they were thinking na parang, well, kasal na kami, hindi ako pwedeng tumanggi. And we're like, no, actually, pwede. That's still your body. Kahit kasal kayo, pwede ka pa rin tumanggi. So, yeah.
That's very
po, ang gandang discussion po na, no? So, paano niyo po na, like, na-indulge po yung community na sabihin talaga sa kanila na it's not a responsibility. Kasi last week lang po pinag-usapan naman yun doon na parang ang sex is not something that's your responsibility to your partner. Which is tama po kayo na mahirap yun sa ibang mag-partners kasi nga, mag-asawa tayo, ba't di mo ibigay sa akin yung ganong klaseng relationship? How did you, paano niyo po na-bridge yung gap na yun?
So, we try to talk about what's a healthy relationship. Kasi, lalo na pati sa mga community, minsan hindi nila iniisip yung sarili nilang mga relationship, pero ang iniisip nila is yung mga anak nila. So, when we're talking with young people, we already introduce the idea of the fact na merong ang mga unhealthy relationship. And unfortunately, maraming mga traits na talagang abusive. Pero sa kultura natin, minsan, parang ine-elevate pa yon. So, for example, if someone is very jealous and laging chine-check ang cellphone ng partner niya, you know, that's abusive. That's not healthy behavior. Pero sa culture natin, pwedeng masabi na, oh, ano lang yan, caring lang siya, gusto lang niyang siguraduhin na, you know, na okay ang lahat sa lahat ng relationships ko or something. Same thing for people who try to control what their partners wear, what they eat, what they drink, where they go. You know, I think that it's very normalized. So people say na parang, oh, hindi, caring lang yan, without recognizing that it's actually abusive. So we talk about this with young people, and then nung nasa community kami, minsan doon nag-uumpisa yung conversations because we talk about, you know, how could these mothers support their kids. Tapos parang from there, you know, na-point out namin na hindi lang naman yung mga anak ninyo, pati kayo. So, of course, it's quite complicated kasi alam naman natin na maraming cases of abuse, whether it's mental, emotional. It doesn't have to be physical or sexual, right? There could be other aspects. And, you know, a lot of people are not able to just leave a relationship kahit ganon because of lots of circumstances. So it's a very complicated issue. So we try to do things in a way na hindi din naman kami magiging judgmental. You know, I know a lot of social workers who work with battered women na minsan sobrang frustrated na sila kasi parang tinutulungan na nga nilang sumampa ng kaso or something, tapos at the last minute the woman will withdraw, so naiinis sila. You know, it's very easy to have that mindset, but you have to put yourself in the situation of the person and just understand that they're not always able to leave. So we try to be non-judgmental.
Wow. Grabe, ang ganda ng first question pa lang yan, Mare,
Kaya ang dami ka nang nalalaman, ang dami ka nang natutunan. Grabe. Kakatuwa yung discussion pag mga ganito eh. So, sige. Follow-up question natin, Mars. Other study shows kasi, according sa Gomacher Institute, na for Asia-Pacific women, I think there's a huge percentage na gusto nila ng gumamit ng contraceptives. However, in terms of information and access, ay limited nga. So, sa case ng Palawan at sa experience din ng Roots of Health, ano yung mga top contraceptives na ginagamit and the family planning methods din na parang mabenta sa community or services ninyo?
So I think for the Philippines, ang nakikita natin, kasi hindi lang sa Palawan, but actually throughout the country, the most popular hormonal contraceptive is the pill. Yun pa rin ang pinaka popular and most preferred. I think it's because people really feel like may control sila. You know, na feeling nila, okay, pwede ko tong inumin, but then if hindi maganda yung feeling or something, pwede ko ring ihinto. And yeah, I think, and of course, meron tayong mga brands na hindi masyadong mahal, minsan meron 40 pesos, ganun. So it, you know, it's accessible. The problem though is that hindi reliable ang pills. Kasi, I mean, they can be reliable kung tama lagi ang pagkainom. You know, the same time, every day, not missing a day. Kailangan walang inumin na iba na makaka-affect. Like for example, kung magkasakit and may umiinom ng antibiotics, you know, that can affect pills. So there's just a lot of factors. And of course, yung human error, madalas makalimutan ang pills, right? So unfortunately, mataas ang failure rate kasi, you know, 2 or 3 days lang na makalimutan or maling timing and you could get pregnant already. So that is still the most popular, but the second most popular in our experience is the contraceptive implant, which is great because it's something na once na-insert sa braso ng babae, it can prevent pregnancy for 3 years. And wala na siyang iisipin, wala na siyang kailangan gawin, di kailangan magpa-check up or anything. And then the other thing that's popular in Palawan is DMPA, yung injectable, which protects for 3 months. So for us, you know, I mean, we do encourage women kung humihingi sila ng payo and wala naman silang counter-indication, we do recommend yung longer lasting, yung LARCs, tinatawag na LARCs, long-acting reversible contraception, which is an implant or an IUD. Kasi mas tumataas talaga yung efficacy rate when you take out human error. So so those are the methods that are quite popular. But if you look at yung mga survey kung ano yung mga ginagamit ng babae na gumagamit ng modern contraception, I think more than half use pills.
Thank you po, Denise Ann. Pero dagdag lang din po. Ano pa po yung aside po dun sa implants, pills, what are the other methods that we can choose from?
Sure. So in the Philippines, we have condoms. These are male condoms. Dati ang UNFPA namimigay rin ng female condoms, but I think naubusan na sila ng stock. So we have male condoms, and then we have oral contraceptive pills. And yung pills natin, may dalawang klase. May isang kind na combination ng hormones, so combined estrogen and progestin. And then merong progestin only. Ngayon, kung titignan natin sa efficacy, actually, mas mabisa yung combined kasi you don't, like, basta inumin mo araw-araw kahit iba-iba yung oras or whatever, hindi ka mabubuntis. The progestin only, you really have to take it like at the same time every day because it's not as strong, kumbaga, kasi isang hormone lang siya. But the benefit of progestin only is this is good for women who are breastfeeding kasi hindi siya nag-interfere with milk production. So it's very popular with nursing moms. And then in hormonal, we also have the MPA, which is also progestin only. It's the injection. It prevents pregnancy for 3 months. And then yung parang hierarchy from there, we have the implant, which is a thin plastic rod that is injected into the arm. And it prevents pregnancy for 3 years. And then the most parang effective of all the contraceptives is the IUD, which can be hormonal or copper. Although I think in the Philippines, usually copper lang ang meron tayo. Yeah, non-hormonal. So this can last from anywhere from 5 to 10 years. There are some that even last for 12 years. And maganda ito for women who are done with childbearing or who don't want to have kids kasi talagang it's very long-acting. Although, pag tinanggal naman, bumabalik ang fertility right away. And it's also good, yung copper one, it's good for women na hindi pwedeng gumamit ng hormonal method. Kasi may mga babae na baka may thyroid issue or may ibang parang mga infections, so hindi sila pwedeng gumamit ng contraception na hormonal-based. So, pwede sa kanila yung copper IUD.
Thank you sa pag-explain kung how these different contraceptive methods are working at I have question lang kasi baka sa mga nanonood sa atin, saan ba sila pwedeng kumuha or bumili nun? Is Roots of Health also offering the services? And also kung may mga restriction ba yan? Like for example, kasi I'm only 17, am I allowed to get IUD or get pills. And tapos kasi, sige, later na yung sa issue natin sa condom that needs parental consent. Oh my God, ang dami ko kasi parang na-fresh at the same time continuous learning. So, pasensya na dahil.
No worries, no worries. Okay. So, unfortunately, Roots of Health is in Palawan only. So, kung may mga nanonood na based in Puerto Princesa or other areas of Palawan, you can contact us for free services. In Manila, I always recommend Likhaan, Center for Women's Health. They have clinics in Tondo as well as in QC. Sa Iloilo, we have FPOP. And I think si FPOP is meron din. I know they have office in Manila also, pero hindi ko lang sure kung bukas pa rin yung clinic nila. I think it's also open. So these are the NGOs na nagbibigay nito ng free services. But ang ating mga barangay health center is meron din. Minsan nauubusan sila ng supplies, so minsan they don't have the complete choice, which ideally anyone nagagamit ng contraceptive, dapat meron siyang complete choice of everything that is available para makapili kung ano yung best for her. So, unfortunately, minsan sa mga barangay health center, kung pills lang meron or DMPA lang meron, mapipilitan to use something that maybe is not your first choice. But if it's a situation na yun lang yung option and you really want to use something, that is an option. And you really should, I mean, kasi sa Pilipinas, you can buy pills without prescription. But in most other countries, kailangan talaga may prescription. And we really recommend that anyone who's going to use contraception consult with a nurse or a midwife or an OB. Kasi yun nga, minsan meron tayong pre-existing condition or if we're a smoker or over a certain age or something, na talagang it's better to have a consultation na hindi basta-basta magsi-self-medicate lang. So you can buy pills. I think you can buy DMPA also, but syempre, kailangan yun i-inject. So generally, people have to go to a health professional to have that inserted. The DOH really did a lot of trainings a few years ago in implant insertion and removal. So now most barangay health centers merong at least isang midwife or nurse na marunong mag-insert ng implant kung may supply sila. The problem right now is may global shortage ng implants. And IUDs are also available pero hindi sila masyadong popular kasi you know, you have to spread your legs, you know, you have to let someone, you know, put something in your cervix, basically attach it inside your uterus. So it's not as, you know, maraming nahihiya to get that. And also, kahit hindi nahihiya, like, you know, natatakot kasi medyo, it does seem kind of scary compared to an injection or iinom ka lang ng pill or yung implant lang. And then your other question was about minors, like how do they access?
Yes,
so that pinapawisan na ako sa tanong mo. Lights kasi dito and walang air, so sorry, I apologize na nag-glow na ako dito.
Ang ganda pa din.
So the issue of minors is a very big problem. In my opinion, that the fact, yung RH law natin, nung dinidiscuss sa Kongreso and sa Senate, it allowed young people who are sexually active na maka-access ng contraception. When the final version was approved by the Supreme Court, naglagay sila ng clause that children under 18 must have parental consent for contraceptive use. Ngayon, syempre, alam naman natin, of course, much better kung hindi nakikipagtalik ang kabataan. But we know they're doing it. And we know that most of them, hindi nila kayang basta-bastang sabihin sa magulang nila na, oh, I'm having sex, can you give me parental consent para maka-access ng contraception? So, what I know is that, you know, may iba't ibang mga aspects that affect this. So, may mature minor like idea basically that if a minor is sexually active, or lalo na kung may anak na, that a health provider can provide them with contraception kahit na hindi pa sila 18, without parental consent, because of the fact that we know that they're already doing these things, so to try to protect them. And then yung revised HIV law natin, which was revised last year. Dati kasi po, yung HIV law also required that if you're under 18, you have to have parental consent for an HIV test. Ngayon, the revised law lowered that age to 15 in recognition of the fact na ang bata-bata ng mga nagiging positive for HIV, ang bata ng mga nakikipagtalik. So the HIV law recognized na, i-lower natin to 15. So for me, I was like, well, if you're doing that, then you're admitting that people are having sex and kailangan nila ng access to HIV screening. So why are you still going to deny them contraception? So it's it's a frustrating thing, but I think in practice most health providers will give a young person contraception if they ask. Lalo na kung if they're saying that they are sexually active or they already have a child. And I know that right now in Congress, there are a few anti-teen pregnancy bills that will probably, hopefully, be passed. And some of them do try to lower the age restriction to 15. So hopefully that will pass.
Yeah. Okay. That's so true, ate. I'm looking forward din kasi I think nagsara lang yung last Congress, hindi pa din yan napapasa. And I think they're fighting that bill. And that's the irony, parang magkaiba yung, ang Philippines ay isa sa mga bansa na may HIV law, may teenage pregnancy policy, may ganito. Ang dami nating magagandang batas, pero parang it doesn't seem to parang in sync with one another. So dapat ayusin natin yung sa implementation ng RH law at ma-revisit nga yan in terms of providing services and access to minors. Ayun. Sige, Mars.
Meron po tayong question, Ate Ami, from our viewer. Kay Ms. Diana Rodriguez. Ang question niya po is, napansin ko po, ang mga contraceptives na na-highlight ay for women. How about po for men aside sa condom? What are the contraceptives or options po for men?
I don't think that there are really accessible other options aside from condoms. I know there was research and development into a male pill. And I feel like may nabasa ako last year na parang it's in testing phase na. So there are some clinical trials ongoing for a male contraceptive pill that I guess would suppress the sperm, I guess it's the sperm that would be suppressed. I personally would still want to use something kasi, I wouldn't want to rely on my partner since kung magkaroon ng any problem, kung nakalimutan niya yung pill niya one day or something, ako ang magkakaroon ng problema. So yeah, unfortunately at this stage, condoms are the main contraceptive tool that men can use.
Yes po. And then meron po kasing mga like myths surrounding contraceptives. So parang yung isa po like for condom, like people doesn't want it because it doesn't feel good. Pero like they don't actually see the consequences of pwedeng mangyari sa kanila once they hindi sila mag-practice ng safe sex. How important is it po like for people to inform how important this is, and that it's not just the obligation of women to actually use this, but also for men po.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. And sobrang nakakainis yung mga boys and men who say na, hindi kasing sarap. Because I always want to say, anong mas masarap, may condom or walang sex? Because I mean, ideally, ideally, if you don't want to get pregnant or get an STI, you would have a partner who would use something, and kung hindi siya gagamit, that you would be able to say, sige, wag na lang. But we all know that a lot of women cannot negotiate condom use. A lot of women, kung ayaw ng partner nila, wala silang magagawa. we have lots of couples in which kung mag-suggest lang yung woman na gumamit ng condom, magagalit agad yung guy and they'll say na parang, that the person is accusing them or something of being promiscuous or whatever. So, mahirap talaga yung issue na to. But, I think that for us, we don't teach abstinence only sa high schools kasi one, that's not effective. A lot of studies have found, like in the States, na kino-compare nila yung students who have abstinence only education with those who have comprehensive sex ed. And yung mga nag-abstinence only, sila pa yung mas maagang nakikipagtalik. And because they don't have any knowledge about sexuality, hindi pa sila gumagamit ng contraceptives, so sila yung nagkakasakit or nabubuntis. So you really need to have comprehensive sex ed. But when we're teaching young people, we also don't want to make it seem that we're encouraging sex, because we do think that sex is something that is better if you're older, and you're more prepared, your body is more prepared, you're emotionally and mentally more prepared. And one of the things that we say to young people is, kaya mo bang kausapin yung partner mo about sex? And usually, if we say this to a group of high schoolers, lahat tatawa sa, nagwawala sila, and they're like, nahihiya sila, and whatever, it's so funny, whatever. But our point is basically that if you cannot talk to your partner about sex, you should not be having sex. And so I feel that way about contraception. If you and your partner are sexually active, pero hindi nyo kayang pag-usapan ng contraception, you probably should not be sexually active. Kasi, you have to be able to have, open and honest communications. And if you can't talk about that, then you really shouldn't be doing it.
Well, that's a really good point. Kasi for some people, it's like a hard conversation. Pero kung ganun kahirap sa'yo, it's so easy for you to engage yourself in something that you're not ready pa talaga.
Yeah.
So it's good. Ikaw, Mare?
Actually, yun na yung mga tanong natin, Mars, nasagot na din ni Ate Ami na parang how to discuss using contraceptives with your partner. And I think lumalabas talaga lagi yung honest and straight honest communication with your partner. I think in the last few sessions that we had, kasi we've been talking about sex toys, then with some in the last session. It's so much fun. So I think lumalabas we should be communicating with our partners if that's the case. Ano pa ba ang mga tanong natin? Ate, naapektuhan ba yung services ninyo during the pandemic? Nasan ba yung mga clinics ninyo? Did you open up the idea of telemedicines, or how were you able to reach out the clients and the partner communities that you're working with?
Sure, yeah. I mean, when the lockdown started, we had to close our clinics. So we were really worried, but diba, it was like mid-March, so we were thinking, okay, well, kung 2 linggo lang to or 3 linggo, that like hopefully by the time somebody needs a new pill pack or needs a new injection, that they would be able to access our clinics na. But then we weren't able to really reopen our clinics until May, I think late May. So medyo mahaba-habang period then. So what we ended up doing is, within a few weeks, we started providing community-based services. So what our clients would do is that they would text our hotline or message us on Facebook, and then they would tell us na, kailangan ko na ng injection or kailangan ko na ng pills. And basically, our nurses and midwives would go to the community. We worked with the city government, the IATF, to get passes for our staff, so that they could be going to the communities and providing home-based services or community-based services. Ngayon, it's very important actually to still be able to do that because of the fact that, yung sa restrictions natin, only recently nila binaba yung age restriction to 15. Diba? Before, it was 21. Yung mga 21 and below, hindi daw dapat lumabas. So there's lots of people who are sexually active who are under 21 na kailangan pa rin nila ng services. So if they're not able to go out to access the services, they have to be able to have someone go to them and give to them. And hopefully, mababalik yung capability ng LGUs, ng mga barangay health center to provide that. But especially when COVID first started, syempre, busy din sila with, doing the home monitoring ng mga PUI, PUM. So maraming ibang mga health concerns na kailangan harapin ng mga barangay health workers and the LGUs. So we understand why reproductive health took a backseat. But unfortunately, it looks like COVID's here to stay for a while, right? At least 1 or 2 more years. And we can assume na kung biglang may second wave, third wave, whatever, pag may mga outbreak ulit, we're gonna be in and out of quarantine for a long period to come. So kailangan talaga natin ng plans, not just the NGOs, but also the LGUs about how to ensure that matututukan pa rin ng reproductive health, because it's an essential service. And it's actually, as seen from the baby boom just from the last few months, the pregnancy boom, it's more important now than ever before.
Yeah, that's so true. I was about to mention that the Philippines is a baby boom. During this pandemic, and parang, oh my God, na parang dami na lalaki na yung population natin. And I think I'm kind of worried as well with the limited access to services, and also yung rising number and accounts of women sharing their stories that they were sinasaktan sila ng mga partners nila. So they're experiencing violence against women and children, no? So parang it's interconnected with those issues, eh. So talagang I agree, Ate Amina, talagang dapat we have a national plan for RH then for the services and information, and pababa sa community level, sa mga barangays, not only dependent sa mga NGOs kagaya ng Root of Health. Yun. Sige. Ikaw, Mars.
Tsaka maganda yung sinabi ni Ate Ami, because nagkaroon ng clarity why this is important. That it's not just, it's a super essential, and at the same time, this is what people need to understand. We know that when people like walang ginagawa, we know what they do oftentimes. So it's important that we protect them, especially na ngayong times na it's harder, diba? Yung economic natin, medyo mas mahirapan tayo for the next few years because of this pandemic. And we really need to be ready for that. And alam naman natin na for those people na hindi naging handa for that and who actually engage, mas mahihirapan sila in the long run. So importante talaga that beforehand, meron silang information like this. Kaya talaga sobrang ganda. Nakita ko nga po, Ate Ami, yung nag-iikot talaga kayo sa mga community, no? Pumunta talaga kayo sa mga different barangays, and talaga nag-offer po kayo ng services. Ano po yung mga in-offer nyo during that time, yung pumunta po kayo doon?
Initially, we were just offering pills, condoms, and injectable, the MPA. But recently, we basically got all the supplies we need so that when we're in a community, isa lang yung vehicle namin sa Ugat. We have a very old, as old as the organization, pickup. But we basically put the back down, yung sa likod ng pickup, so that we have a flat surface. And then we put down like sterile paper and disinfect so that we can provide implants as well. So basically, when we are doing community-based services, we can give all contraception except for IUDs. And then our clinics are opened with some health protocols, so people can access services there. And nakikita naman namin na medyo tumataas na ulit yung number of clients we have compared to pre-COVID levels. But, before we would have maybe 100 clients in our clinics per day. And then when we first reopened, siguro mga nasa 20. So isipin mo lang, like, are the rest of those women, do they really want to get pregnant right now? Or, or do we have to find other ways to find them? So that's basically why we're offering still the community-based, even though nag-ease na yung restrictions dito. And, Nick, just to your point, like, sex is comforting. Sex is fun, sex feels good, sex is comforting. There's a lot of people who have lost so much. And
Yes.
because COVID is prolonged, hindi natin nakikita as like, like an emergency, like when there's an earthquake or something. But when there's an earthquake or a typhoon, pag nasa yung mga people who have to be in relocation camps, sometimes for these people, sex is all they have. They've lost everything else. They've lost their jobs. People have died. So sex is really important as something that can bring couples and people comfort. So we just really have to make sure in this pandemic situation, as you said, a lot of people, they don't have anything else to do, or a lot of people have so much stress, so much anxiety. Many have lost their jobs, many have lost loved ones. So hopefully we can just expand services so that only the people who want to get pregnant will actually get pregnant, and everybody else can just keep having fun pregnancy, less sex.
Yeah. Yun nga din Ate Ami, kasi sex doesn't stop in pandemic. So bakit talagang hindi ito binibigyan ng kahalagahan, So Ate Ami, so I'm interested din sa mga challenges. So I think this could be pertaining to pre-COVID siguro, ano yung mga, or even up to now, during the pandemic, ano pa yung mga challenges niyo, may mga barriers pa din ba, or may limited access to information, sa mga myth that surrounds the people? And I think also yung mga palawan nyo ba ay naging open towards the services that you're that you're giving them? Ayun.
Yeah, I think, we've been here for 11 years already. So I think that most Palaweñas know about our services already. I can't tell you the number of times na, if I'm chatting with my cash register person or yung sales lady or, yung nagbebenta sa palengke, the number of times someone will say to me, oh, I access services from you. So, we've in the last 11 years, we've provided over 60,000 women and girls here with contraception. So, it's in a good way. People know that we're here. They know that they can access services. They know that it's a safe place that's non-judgmental. Our governor and our vice governor are very anti-RH, but they, to their credit, have never tried to stop us. They know that kailangan yung services na binibigay namin. So, we haven't had those kinds of issues, and our Mayor Byron, is very supportive of reproductive health. So, it's a really good thing. But of course, there's still barriers. There's so little information that young people especially get. And, we teach about 20,000 young people in public high schools every year. But yung tinuturo namin, we only get to see the students once for 2 hours per topic. In other countries na talagang may comprehensive sex ed, they'll study, sex ed for like a whole semester, like a subject, its own subject. So for us, we see the kids once when they're in grade 7 or 8, once in grade 9 or 10, and once in grade 11 or 12 for like 3 hours. So that's really not enough. It's good to give them the basic information, but if you really want to have sustained gains and to make sure that they will have health-seeking behavior, na talagang, kasi most of them will say after we teach them na, yes, I will use contraception the next time or the first time I have sex. But if they have sex 2 years later and nakalimutan na nila, or a lot of times, I think because in our culture, girls don't want to seem prepared for sex. Kasi, so many times, in a couple, the girl will say na parang, well, ayoko, pero pinagbigyan ko na lang, so sometimes that's rape, right? But sometimes couples, she does consent, but yung outside messaging is that, she has to say that that she didn't want to, because otherwise, she'll be called a slut or, pok, whatever. And because of that, a lot of girls, even if they know they're going to have sex, they won't get prepared first. They won't come and get an implant or come and get pills before they have sex. And sometimes, unfortunately, kahit one time lang, pwede na silang mabuntis. So, that's one of the biggest barriers I think we continually face still is how to get girls using contraception before they have that first pregnancy.
Yun
Yeah.
po. So,
Totally
sabi,
agree.
hmm. So, sabi niyo nga po, Miss Ami, before umaabot po ng 20,000, ngayon po, paano niyo po na-reach out yung mga young people, knowing na yung barrier na ngayon is yung pandemic, and how do you give this basic information to them?
Yeah, so we are, like most organizations, we're pivoting our materials online. But the young people are the hardest, I think, for us to reach. Kasi before, it was so much easier because they're a captive audience in a school. We can just go, we can teach, we know who we taught. But now, if we put things online, we don't really know who's going to see it, and we don't know who has Wi-Fi access, sinong naka Facebook Lite or free, so wala silang makikitang picture or video. Like there's just a lot of considerations, and there's just a lot of people that don't even have like a smartphone or a tablet, so you can't rely on internet lang. But with that said, we do know that a lot of Filipino young people are online. So we're trying to put materials online. We're trying to convert our lesson plans and our modules into bite-sized pieces na, like for example, yung lesson namin on myths and facts about contraception. We're gonna maybe have like a few videos that break down those topics. But it's hard. It is hard, and I really don't like that we have to be so reliant on the internet because we know that we're missing lots of people who aren't online. But at the moment, that's all we can do. Right now, Puerto Princesa, actually kahapon in-announce nila na we're COVID-free right now. The last COVID patient, yeah. Kaya lang, hindi ako naniniwala. I mean, it's great. It's great. Like, no, let's celebrate. It's a good thing. But the public health epidemiologist in me knows that there's lots of people who are asymptomatic, because so hopefully, it will continue to be na very mild if ever magkaroon. So hopefully, maybe Palawan within a few months, maybe next year, hopefully we'll be able to have in-person schooling again. But until then, we are trying to use the internet. We're exploring using radio ads and seeing TV placements, but wala pang development doon.
And so, ngayon po, Ms. Am, kasi ito question doon, can young people like send a message to Roots of Health just in case they have questions about our reproductive health or sex or contraceptions, which is, I think, very important po.
Yes, absolutely. So, meron kaming, we have a few Facebook pages. So, meron kaming isang page na Roots of Health, and that's just on Facebook or Instagram. You just type Roots of Health and you'll find us. But a better resource, I think, for information about contraception is our clinic page, which is UNK Clinic. So if you're on Facebook and you type in UNK Clinic, you will find our page. It is a page in which we discuss all the methods of contraception, may mga Facebook Live, may videos. All of the content is in Tagalog. And that is something that we found, we have 80,000 followers on that page, and they're all over the world. I mean, some of the Filipinas are in the Middle East, they're in Europe, because it's very hard to find a trusted source of information about contraceptives in Tagalog. So I really recommend that page. And then for young people, we also have a page called Usapang K. And that also has content, some in English, but mostly in Tagalog as well.
Ganda. Kasi naisip ko lang din kasi 'di ba yung mga young people, minsan di mo yan makita mag-comment kasi baka makita ng mama niya or makita ng parents niya.
Correct.
Medyo awkward din.
Yeah, it's always associated with hiya and, stigma din na parang, nagtanong siya about sex or what, manyak siguro yung taong yan. So,
No, in the schools, pag may girl na magtatanong, kunyari may explanation about contraception, tapos kunyari may tanong siya, immediately the boys are like, uy, may balak. And then she gets shamed, right? And then she doesn't say anything anymore. So it's really, I wish that there wasn't this stigma around it, because it's so important to be informed and to know what your options are. And this is why I love, like, podcasts like yours, and webinars like yours, because you're normalizing this conversation. Sana naman walang nanonood na sasabihin na bastos tayo, but or na maniac tayo. Although I don't know, I didn't get to see your episode on sex toys, but that sounds more interesting than what I'm talking about. But yeah, no, I think it's great that you guys are doing this. So thank you.
Yes po, Miss Ang. Ang ganda po nung sinabi niyo kanina na talagang normalizing, kasi I think women and girls want to ask this question because they want to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Not because they want to engage themselves to many relationships, but because they want na pag ginawa nila yung sex or nagkapag-sex sila sa taong gusto nila, kumbaga safe sila, hindi sila like magiging hesitant or hindi sila magkaroon ng lots of anxiety na ano yung ginawa ko, ano yung nangyari, ganyan. Tapos bigla na lang, kumbaga, yung mabibigla na lang sila. And I think it's important for women to know their options and how to protect themselves. And it doesn't equate to promiscuity because it only, actually, ang nag-equate lang siya is educating yourself, which is very important. Kaya sobrang thank you, Miss Ami, kasi ang dami naming natutunan, services, mga like very youth-friendly. And I think yung pinaka-importante po na nakuha ko po from US, yung to ensure that na merong access at may matatanungan yung mga kabataan when it comes to this, and right education. Because some people, actually ang dami ko pong nakita sa YouTube ngayon na mga nagpo-post paano makipag-sex, pero just to do a vlog, which hindi nila nakikita yung consequences of this, na hindi lang yan basta ganun eh. Hindi mo, kumbaga, it's also about thinking, ano ba yung consequences? Bakit kailangan ng proper information? Kasi yung iba nagdadala ng sobrang daming misconceptions lalo, at na nagko-cause for women to engage in an unwanted pregnancy. So, ang ganda po nun. And that's why talaga po-promote namin yung Roots of Health, because we know that we can get a lot of information from your organization. Ikaw, Maridon, do you have to
Wow, ang daming magagandang sinabi, Mars, pati din si Ate Ami. So, wala nakaka-overwhelm. At the same time, I'm very happy na, continuously working ang Roots of Health amidst the pandemic, and to trying to explore new creative ways talaga to really reach out to the partner communities and schools, lalo na yung mga kabataan just like us. Kasi kailangan dami natin nakikita online, pero ano ba yung totoo ba talaga? Ano yung accurate information sa paggamit ito, or ano yung pwede sa kanya? So, kailangan talaga natin ng mga fact check, sa mga informations na nare-reach out natin. Ayun.
Ayun, ikaw, Miss Ami, what's your message to the young people na nanonood sa atin? And yung advice when it comes to using contraceptives?
Well, so like you said, I mean, nasabi nyo na that it's very important to know what your options are for keeping yourself protected. And, I think ang isang lumabas from the pandemic na before parang buzzword lang, but I think people are taking it seriously now, is self-care. And part of self-care is protecting yourself. And so I think it's just really important that, any young people who, whether they're girls or boys, men or women, if they're thinking about having sex with a partner, to just read up on it, make sure they understand, try to ask a trusted source of information, and protect themselves, and use contraception so that they won't have an unplanned pregnancy before they're ready, and that they won't get HIV. Like you said, we have resources online, and it's not quite ready to roll yet, but we're going to have a Facebook group for youth advocates. Here in Palawan, we train young people who want to be peer educators about reproductive health. And since everything's online now, naisip namin that we could invite people all over the country who want to be part of that, na pwede rin silang mag-give back sa community nila, to teach their own friends. So that's also, you can also just monitor our Roots of Health Facebook page and our website, rootsofhealth.org, and we'll be announcing that when we roll it out.
Alright, thank you so much, Miss Ami. Dami namin tutunan sa'yo.
Thanks so much for having me.
Abo, we hope po na sana
I miss you. Hopefully, I'll be seeing you very soon.
I know, I miss you guys also. Usually magkikita tayo at least every couple of months. Ang tagal na.
Yeah.
Sino kayo ng Palawan? Super. Tapos yung pag nagda-dinner tayo, ang sarap talaga. Nakakamiss na. Gusto ko naman.
Yeah, I think 1 year na, Nick, no? 1 year since you were here. It was October, yeah.
October. Oh my gosh. Anyways, thank you so much po, Miss Anyan.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to see you again after this pandemic. Thank you po. Have a great
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Ayan, Mare. Grabe. Ang dami kong natutunan. Mas naliwanagan ako about sex and that, it's not just essential kasi nga, diba? I mean, tama si Miss Ami kasi ang tao talaga wala talaga magawa today eh. So, importante na it is pleasurable and at the same time, yung makuha nila is a wanted pregnancy and not something that we don't expect talaga. Kasi mahirap yung economy natin ngayon.
Yeah, that's very true. And I like the last part na sinabi ni Ate Ami Mars, no, na sinabi niya it's part of our healthcare. So, it's part of our self-care to be protected and to communicate things if we want sex with our partners. Ganun. Kasi iba pa din kasi minsan makala natin wala tayong how do I say this one? Yung sobrang stress ka tapos dahil sa pandemic hindi ka makalabas. So yung outlet mo lang is sex. Pero minsan kasi if unprotected, that's where the issue comes in, So, ready ka bang mabuntis ngayong pandemic? Parang ready ka na ba to become a parent? Those things, Kaya, parang it doesn't hurt naman to use a condom or any contraceptive that's available or accessible, Pero I think sometimes yung issue lang din ay lack of information and at the same time, inaccessibility to the services. So, i-highlight lang natin, Mars, may mga friends tayo na kung magtatanong sila kung saan sila pwede kumuha ng mga free services related to access to contraceptives. We have our friends from Likaan Center for Women's Health based in Manila and marami silang clinics around and they can message Likaan at Facebook or they can call. Second is Roots of Health na based in Palawan, kung saan si Ate Ami ay ang ED. Also, I think, I'm not even sure din kung si Family Planning of the Philippines ay bukas sa ngayon, pero they have a nationwide chapter clinics din that can assist our mga kumare at mga Mars, na nakikinig and who wants to have access to contraceptives.
Yes, kasi ang importante kasi dito knowing your options talaga. Finding your own method. Finding kung ano at saan ka comfortable. But at the same time, knowing its consequences. Kasi very, para sa akin, very essential na makita natin yung different sides of using these methods. And ang ganda nga yung pinaliwanag ni Ate Ann, kasi ang daming nagsiself-medicate, diba? Or parang uminom ng pills na basta lang sila uminom. May underlying conditions pala sila, diba, na pwede magkaroon ka ng complications. That's why, sabi nga niya, Ani, it's very important to ensure na nagpapakonsult talaga kayo sa mga clinics na kagaya ng Roots of Health and other clinics na mention nga ni Maring Don. And also, mayroon naman tayong mga barangay health clinics na pwede niyong puntahan, pwede kayong magtanong. And again, sabi niya, actually may mga ibang health centers na talaga nagbibigay ng actually may iba nga daming stocks Alam mo yun, siguro nga out of hiya or shame na parang, ba't ako hingi, baka sabihin ko, excuse ako. Pero importante kasi, bakit siya available? It's because it is essential. So, huwag tayong mahihiyang manghingi kung sakali man na kailangan talaga natin. Ako nga, minsan yung regalo ko sa mga friends ko, condoms Diba?
Wow.
Para safe yung Christmas or ano man yung celebrate nilang holidays, diba? Meron yun pala, celebrate ng UP. It's Happy Pride.
Oh my God, you can miss you!
Yes.
Happy Pride, mga mahal! So,
yes. I'm supposed to go there, kaya lang natapat sa, natin, sa vlog natin. Pero siguro, we'll just watch out for other events pa ng UP Pride. So, sobrang, isa din po sa maganda nating pag-usapan next time, yung tungkol sa mga trans women, why are they women, di ba? Kasi ang dami din questions patungkol dito. And
bakit gusto ko din yan, Mars. Sige.
Yes.
Pag-usapan natin.
Oo. Tsaka pwede rin natin pag-usapan yung mga gender orientation. Especially, we're gonna focus on women. So, minsan kasi ang daming misconception sa lesbian, di ba? Pag lesbian, pagtingin is like, very butch lang. Diba? Parang nakakahon ka sa ganun. So, ano ba yung mga ganun? Pero yan. So,
exciting as always, Mars. Ang ganda na ng diaries natin, itong Babayi Diaries. Ang dami nating talagang mga tanong. And I think sometimes nakakaganda lang ng feeling na pag ako, may mga friends ako na nanonood, thank you Mars ko at mga friends ko na nagsasabi, I like your Babayi Diaries. Tapos parang, alam mo yung question mo, ay question ko din. So parang, ikaw din. So parang, ay kakatuwa that we resonate every woman, And I think yun yung goal natin to this Babayi Diaries project. So, ayun Mars, sige.
Yes, and to add them, since na-mention mo na yung Babayi Diaries, we have launched our Instagram account. So, just type Babayi Diaries. So, visit our page. Marami kami ipopost dyan. Abangan nyo. So, ngayon pa, isa-isa muna. Then, we'll add up more information about related to our topics na na-discuss na and why is it important. Kasi, maganda yun. Makita nyo din kung ano yung mga causes namin, ba't kami nag-start ng Babayi Diaries. Kasi, di ba, Mari, para sa iba siguro, naalala mo nung nagsisimula pa lang tayo, we're like talking na, yung Babayi Diaries kasi, we were planning it for like, how many months na, pero wala pa tayong title until we came up with this. And, ang saya, kasi ang dami nating babae na na-inspire. And, ang ganda lang din, kasi it doesn't matter kung isa ka lang, dalawa, or tatlo. Kasi, we believe na the more that we do this, talaga magkakaroon ng ripple effect and masasagot yung mga katanungan ng mga kapwa natin babae na parang, oo nga no, kasi hindi ko tumatanong-tanong kung kanina sa mga like girlfriends mo, diba? Kasi minsan uncomfortable din. Pero ito naging safe space talaga natin to actually talk about this thing. So, for now, Mars, wala pa na tayo natatanggap na bastos tayo. So,
happy. So, kasi sana umabot sa mga kinuukulan. I think we should educate them, diba? If they want to also learn and if they share same questions like ours, diba? Parang be open-minded naman tayo or just here to question and also learn from other people. So parang wag naman ganon. Spread love, not hate. Diba? Dahil Pride Day ngayon na sinaselebrate sa UP. Share love, not hate. So ayun.
Yes. Ayan. Thank you so much, Mars. Sobrang excited na ako sa next week. Abangan niyo yung mga susunod namin vlog. And sana palagi kayong mag-watch, mag-subaybay, mag-share, mag-like, and mag-subscribe sa aming YouTube account. At sana supportan nyo rin yung mga bago naming Facebook, Instagram account. Sana supportan nyo. And again, Mars, this is sponsored by Dalong Kita, Ashka Boutique, ayan, diba?
Mga sponsors natin, dumadami,
may pa-sponsor na tayo ngayon. Ayan, thank you, Dalong Kita. So, if you want coffee, bili lang kayo sa Dalong Kita. Very good yung coffee niya. Actually, it's one of the best coffee na natikman ko. And also, we have Asha Boutique. Ayan, siya yung nag-sponsor sa atin ng codes for our raffle. So, extended yung raffle natin hanggang November na siya. So, sana sumali kayo. It's Asha Boutique by BNP. Sobrang mura lang ng mga clothes. Nakailang bili na rin ako dito. So, sana...
Ay, din pala. Okay.
Kuha na rin ako. Ayan. So, thank you for sponsoring Asha Boutique by BNP. And also, gusto rin natin i-promote yung advocacies, yung sa, New Roots Initiative. Ayan, New Roots Initiative, it's building stronger roots for the San Isidro community. So, this community, ito ay tinutulungan din ng Asha Boutique by BNP, wherein yung proceeds ay mapupunta sa mga taga San Isidro community. And yung goal nila is actually to ensure na maging independent yung ating mga nasa community, which is a very good cause. So, sana supportahan nyo rin yung New Roots Initiative. O, diba? Hindi lang tayo, sponsorship. May sinusupport din tayong mga organization na
Exactly. Yeah. I think yun yung kagandahan natin kasi I think we support local products and local initiative, but most especially we support women, diba? I mean, we are women for women. So yun yung highlight talaga ng Babayi Diaries. So, yay!
Ayan, it's another day. It's grabe, sobrang dami naman nating natutunan for this week. I can't wait for next week na. Thank you, Mars, for always joining us and for being our resident co-host. I can't thank you enough, Mars.
Wow! May maganda.
Oo!
Ayan. Thank you, Mars. Ito din natin the woman behind ng ating bagong banner ngayon na nakikita ng mga kumare natin sa video natin, yung orange na gumagalaw-galaw ay dahil ito sa kumaring natin. So, thank you, Mars. Ayan.
Thank you, Mars. Ayan. For our new and improved, natin, live for this. So, ayan, thank you so much, Mare. Magkita-kita tayo next week. Again, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Link Maravillas, and follow us on Instagram at Babayi Diaries. Thank you so much and see you next week. Bye!
Bye-bye!